Shabbat Shalom and welcome to Teshuvah Bible Studies. My name is Van and we're doing the third part of this week's Torah portion, Parashat HaShavua. We talked in part one about the meaning of the word emunah and how faith and actions coexist with each other. And we kind of progressed in that idea in part two when we talked about how Elohim's people cannot be cursed by the enemy or even anyone for that matter, because we are under Elohim's blessing when we are obedient to him. And the only way we can actually be cursed is if we curse ourselves through disobedience. So when we put our faith into action, our emunah into action, by obeying Torah and obeying his commands and obeying his instructions, we are put into this umbrella of protection where we are blessed and cannot be cursed. And no matter what's going on in our lives, I know we all go through difficult parts of our lives, but when we are under his umbrella, we have the understanding that we are still blessed and he's going to see us through. When we begin to disobey or stray away from his instructions is when we actually become cursed and we start reaping the results of what we plant. And that's what we want to try to avoid. And in this part, I'm going to explore a little bit further what the word curse actually means. Right? When we see something like this, a picture like this, we immediately think that this land is cursed. This land is barren, right? Because when we think of a curse, we think of absence of life or absence of abundance. And this is an accurate picture of what curse means. However, this is, again, abstract. It's an abstract idea. It might be different for different people, and it's not something that is concrete. In Scripture, it defines curse as something specific. And we see this in Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 26, that a choice between what's right and wrong, a choice between what his instruction says to do and not to do, is the actual definition of a curse. And when he put the Torah before the people, right, and he separated the Torah into two different mountains, and he put the curses on one mountain, and he put the blessings on the other mountain, and then there were people in the valley. They were given the choice to either choose life and blessing or death and cursings, right? So they were given that choice between the two, the two mountains. They could either do what Elohim instructed them to do and be blessed, or not do what Elohim said to do and be cursed. So that's the actual definition of a curse, not something abstract, it's something concrete, something definite, right? So curse is defined as this, right? So in scriptures, we see in Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 26, the definition of a curse is anyone who does not uphold the words of this law by carrying them out. In Hebrew, the word used here is Torah, not law, which I already explained in a video about Torah. If you want to watch that video, you can see it I'm going to put it over here. So Torah does not mean law, but it means instructions, right? It means something that Elohim gave us as instructions, because law, if you break the law, there's only consequences. You don't get benefits. But instructions, if you do the instructions, you receive benefits. If you break the instructions, you receive the consequences of breaking those instructions, right? So this is actually Torah here. So curse is anyone who does not uphold the words of Torah and do not carry them out, which ties us back to emunah, right? Emunah is not just believing something. So it's not enough to know and believe Torah. If you don't carry it out, if you don't have your actions that back up what you believe, which is what faith actually means, you are still cursed. So it's something very serious and something that we usually don't even we take that for granted. We don't usually fully understand and fully follow what the scriptures actually teaches us, right? So this can also manifest in different ways. Usually it manifests in our speech, because what we say is usually what we believe. The scripture says that out of our mouth comes things that are in the abundance of the heart, right? And understanding that in scripture, heart actually means your mind. It's not actually the organ that pumps your blood through your veins, as we understand today. But in scripture and in ancient times, whenever the scripture talks about the heart, it's talking about our understanding, our mind, our comprehension, our desires even. So when you read scriptures, you see that heart is directly tied to our mind, and not emotions or feelings like we think today, right? So we can see this in James chapter 3, verses 9 and 10, that says the following: with the tongue we bless our Adonai and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in Elohim's likeness. Out of the same mouth comes blessings and cursing. Comes blessing and cursing. And it shouldn't be that, right? That's what it says, the following verse. It shouldn't be that. Another definition of a curse is what we proclaim, what we say to each other. That's why a lot of times when we say a bad word, people say, oh, he's cursing me. He's cursing me, because you're actually using words as a weapon. You're using words to defame, to belittle people. That's a form of cursing. But it still comes from your heart. It still comes from your actions and how you live your life, right? Because if somebody is doing things that are opposing to the Creator, their words have no power. Their words have no power. So as I was saying in the previous part, if we are obedient to Elohim and we are following his ways, we can't not be cursed. So even if somebody comes and says something to curse you, if you are under that umbrella of protection of obedience to Elohim, that curse has no power over your life. So by better understanding what curse means, we're able to try to avoid not only becoming a curse or receiving a curse, but also we avoid doing this to others, right? So that's what it was meant by Elohim when he said to Abraham in Genesis 12 verse 3 that I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So when he was saying this to Abraham, he wasn't just saying for all those who say evil things against you, I'm gonna curse them, and those who say good things against you, I will bless them. He was actually saying those who live according to the teachings that I'm passing through you will be blessed. So by following Torah, we are automatically going to be blessed and be a blessing to others. And by doing the opposite, we become curses and we become curses to others, right? So how can we, I guess I just said that, by being an example to the nations and following Torah, by being the light that Elohim called us to be, we're automatically become a blessing to others, and we automatically become blessed. And by doing the opposite, we become a curse. Because in scriptures, the definition of sin is disobeying Torah or breaking Torah. We're going to see that probably, I think it was the last verse that I put in this portion, that's going to show you in scripture in black and white what a sin is. And by breaking Torah, we are cursing ourselves and also cursing those around us, because everything we do affects those around us, right? So we're going to see that at the end of this portion, Israel falls to this, to what the enemy was planning on doing everything. Not the entire nation of Israel, but many of the people fall victim to this. I think the scripture says that 24,000 or 42,000, I'm not sure, people died because they fell into this trap of the enemy, right? So it actually ends in a negative way, unfortunately. This portion is going to end in a very negative way. The entire first 3 chapters, we see the enemy trying over and over to curse Israel and being unsuccessful because they were being obedient. And then it ends in a kind of a tragic way where the enemy found this loophole, found this way of making Elohim's people curse themselves. And it was through the lust of the flesh and temptation that he was able to accomplish this. We see throughout the portion that the Israelites were camped out near the Moabites. And what they did was they started tempting them to come into the temples of Baal and worshiping Baal, this false deity. And they tempted them through women. And back then they had prostitution inside the temple, and one of the forms of worship were orgies and prostitution in the temples. So usually they got the best, most beautiful looking women to be these temple prostitutes. And it was through the temple prostitutes that they were able to snatch and enslaved a lot of these Israelites who were led astray, and they began to worship Baal, and they began to worship these false deities and doing these abominations before the eyes of Elohim. So we see here that it was through their actions and through their breaking of Torah and breaking of Elohim's instructions not to have any other Elohims before them that they became cursed and they died. So that's a huge lesson for all of us, right? The enemy is going to try many different ways to try to snatch us. If he can't do it through money, he might try to do it through fame. He might try to do it through lust. He's going to try to find your weakness, right? And if you're not ready to stand firm and see these patterns in your life, you will eventually fall prey to this type of trap and temptation. So that's kind of the lesson, the second part of the lesson, right? Understanding what the curse is so that we don't become one, so we become a curse. And I'm going to end this third part of the portion, third part of the Bible study, and I keep getting that confused, I apologize. So this is the third part of our Bible study, the second part of the portion. I'm going to end it with that verse that clearly defines sin. If you didn't know what sin was before, and this is your first time hearing this verse, now you know what sin is, right? Because everybody wants to define sin in a different way. And they want to say, oh, this is a sin, that's a sin. Drinking is a sin. There's nowhere in Torah that says that drinking is a sin. So who are we to say that drinking is a sin, right? We're not supposed to get drunk or become drunkards, but the scripture does not condemn drinking. So for us to say that drinking is a sin is not accurate. Who defines what is and is not a sin is the Creator and His Torah. So we have to learn His Torah so we can learn not to sin, so that we can stay blessed, right? And that's what I do in this channel. We explore scriptures, we explore Torah and nothing else outside of that. And I may say some controversial things and things that you may not agree or understand, but it's based out of scriptures. And if I'm wrong, you're gonna have to show me that through scripture, not through any argument or debating. So 1 John chapter 3 verse 4 says, everyone who sins breaks Torah. In fact, sin is lawlessness. So in other words, if you live without Torah, that's the definition of sin. Sin is breaking Torah, breaking the law. And this is actually in the New Testament, for those people who think that the New Testament made the old one obsolete and invalid. This is in New Testament, right? So 1 John chapter 3 verse 4, memorize that verse. Everyone who sins breaks Torah, breaks the law. In fact, sin is lawlessness. The enemy that's coming, right? The Antichrist is also called the lawless one. There's a lot of scriptures in the New Testament that speak to this. So when we start saying that, the law was for the Old Testament is no longer valid, we see how incorrect we are here through scripture, through the New Testament. So anyway, I will end with that, and I hate to end on a controversial note. I would probably touch more on these topics next week. So tune in next week so we can answer some more questions that will further explore this idea. And for now, I'll say Shabbat Shalom. Have a blessed week, and I see you guys on the next one. Shalom. Shavua Tov.